Hello and welcome. It is the completion of the 19th day of May 2020. My name is Derek. This is the Money Charts channel where, like always, all bets, trades, and of which the like within each his own risk reward. For myself, risk reward is always job number one. And it should be understanding if you're doing like bets, how much you put on the line, trades, portion sizes, risk, stuff like that. And understanding the better strategies within it will, I think, become a very positive mechanism. But regardless of how one is in currency bankroll management, a bankroll management is a good word, then you got to be good at what you're doing. For I can manage risk all day long and find out I can lose a little bit here and there if I suck at what I'm doing. Or if I'm really good at what I'm doing, well, that's where it works out. Because there's a lot of people in a gambling type world, and making trades in this is totally that. Well, they can be good, but then poor risk reward management based bet sizing and stuff can hurt a lot of them often. We're going to take a look at silver in this video, and I'm going to talk about even fantasy sports for a couple of reasons, but that'll be the end of the video. A lot to go over. Silver, crude oil, the Dow Jones. And crude oil and Dow Jones will be very quickly. Bitcoin and Theta, and gold as well. And I'll do gold after silver. And even the ratio, because it's pretty much around 100 now. With that being said, silver on the daily chart has managed to get above this level of resistance, and several days now on a very, very good break. Because what did we do here at this previous area where we came from in here? Yeah, we've been going a little bit higher, but we're still in that general area. We can even still go up to like 18 high change, and we're at this high. But very good move regardless. And then getting above 18 high change brings us to 19 mid change in here from the highs from the end of the summer last year. But a very, very good run. Whenever you have a move like this, is it a failed one? Is it a real one? Because if it's a failed one, it can be big. And we can see that the situation of such is you have a break of this support and even a break of this support as well within this huge move. And then how it's able to rebound from it, justify this little move, and then the break. And I really want to talk about that. The big move, the rebound, the correctionary, and then what follows. Because that's why I'm going to be talking about all these markets: crude oil, Dow, gold, Bitcoin. We're going to take a look at all of it on the daily because it's all the same thing. The Rudy Gobert incident, as I like to call it, which was on March the 11th, and the day after that, all the markets came down. This is March the 12th, and the big move. Or March 14th, was it? It was, and then one of those days. But they all had the big down move. They all had this correctionary. And we can see that from the high now of the year, the intra-year highs, it has retraced damn near close to 100% of it, or it's pretty much gotten all back. Holding this lower area here of where it came from, this is the general congestion area, 15 change, if there's going to be any pullbacks now. And of course, the real price that you're buying silver at is significantly higher, as the premiums, which have been out of hand, are at high levels for a consistent base now, and it still remains in such. And an interesting thing for myself, I did purchase a 10-ounce bar today for 300 Canadian dollars. And I'm thinking most of the times when I've been buying silver recently, let's just now go a different time frame, say the weekly. Recently is practically all of this in here. And even at these higher prices in this point, but really even down in here, mainly in this point in here. So I'll draw it in this is where I did a decent amount of silver buying. And even in here as well before it was falling. That's because Bitcoin was kicking ass. So therefore, it was easy, I guess back in this time in here, and fun, I suppose as well, to always usually buy twice the amount what I bought today. I spent $300 today. It was very common to have $600 lots that I would buy. And it was very common that it was maybe a little noticeable over 600 barely, but noticeably over 30 ounces I would get. Thus I'm thinking, geez, it's almost like 50% price higher from when it was up like just like 20%. The price is up over 50. Well, that's because of the premiums of the market. So you can say that the market's at this price, but realistically, the price is breaking out at a much larger level. We are still in this long-term sideways range. This support in this area We're in this downtrend. Support broken, a little bit of congestion here, which is where support became resistance. So this is the start of moving into it. The range would be pretty much this, moving to the top end. So it still hasn't had any type of long-term breakout. And even if you use the term of the 18 average, I need to see it get above the 18 average to say it's attempting a breakout stage. Well, it's gotten above it, but we're still at this level of resistance. I really need to see it clearly break this range in order for that to be the case. I suppose me seeing this breaking out is telling me that it's making an attempt to make it to the very top of the range, and or attempting to break out of the range and of course have the moves, because in here you break out of this, then it's like uncharted territory in the same means that you can have wild moves of large proportions after breaking a significant play. So going from here to wherever the next key high happens to be oftentimes would come very convincingly and probably fast, but a noticeable key move. Like this is a convincing move from key high to key low, stuff like that. Now let's switch it over to the gold chart, starting on the daily term. So again, I want to look at every one of these charts, and I want to see on the daily chart, you had your yearly highs, you had your big fall, then you had the rise in your correctionary play, and then what did you do after? Well, gold early on had this move, and then this other correctionary phase. But what we're now seeing within, we're supporting here where we resisted. Thus, we have a resistance level higher. We've resisted big in this little general area here between 1764 and 1785, moving to the upper end of the range. But what we're doing with the 18 average of highs is showing a very interestingly nice setup, how it's just doing this. There's this little look in here after this correctionary move, showing you the strength, like a setup, like, oh, this thing is just ready to burst, breaking past this level of resistance. And if it does so, well, then we'll take a look at this on a more longer term time frame, like the weekly. Okay, let's do the monthly. Okay, where are we? And this is now the move that it's been continuing doing. The play is still live because the statement on this came when it broke the 18 average of highs back in here. Because just like I mentioned with silver, you have that long range. And here's that long range with one failed breakout that didn't really cause much of a fast move. But since the breakout, it has been convincingly going higher. Shorter term correctionary plays within, in particular, this period in here. If not this, you can see how you, and then of course that works into the daily, like the, within that. But again, that's showing you in here how it's holding these moves very, very well within this uptrend. And the play is to get to previous high next, which is around 1900. 1920 would have been the high from 2011, past the halfway point that year. I think it was like fall. Yeah, August, September. So it's doing its job. And then what it does at this point, okay, we'll see. I consider this weak resistance at 1920, meaning maybe it doesn't resist much and we just have a huge move. Maybe it does resist it, but it doesn't go down much. I don't even know if it's going to come back to where we came from this move. If it comes down to 1350, wow, that's a nice move. But you could have like 1907, just come back to this area, 16. Maybe you congest and stay sideways. I mean, there's a little bit of sideways congestion here, a little bit of short term, but all these moves, again, like only 4 periods. The sellers or the buyers are really controlling this market, and they have been for pretty much about a good part of a year now. And to finish, a quick look on the gold to silver ratio, down to 97, weird as that states. So pretty much 100 to 1. And on the daily chart, the big move gold had the breakout from February 25th, and just a tremendously large continuous move. The 2 stages of the move, you had the first one, which was this, and then the straight up move to finish it. Therefore, fantastic. Now you have the correctionary phase, and you establish support and resistance. And when it's obviously broken the support now. And it's already had a decent move. And you get a situation like this, okay, bullish, if it's this level here, it would be big on any trends coming higher. Because if you have this type of down move, and then if it comes back here and it's not struggling on the upside, you see it coming into this former range and doing all this stuff, whatever, then you're seeing that this would be a failed breakout. You can start talking about maybe the 150, 160, 170 levels. But I like how does anyone gonna know, I mean, other than being on the insider, if it's gonna be a top or not? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But if it is, then you would have to see how things like, okay, the weekly chart, you resist this, these things will roll over, that'll all come into play. And it's going to all come down to the move of the market. If silver has these fantastic runs where you're talking about 10, 20% days, $5 days and things like that. Gold's up 7% or 5%, while silver's up 13%. And there were days like that going back into these time frames, at least a lot of these moves for the last time when it came down to like 30 and change in 2011. It was very common. Gold's up to 1.8 and silver's up 6. Hence why this went down so much. So that could come at any given time. And if that happens, then the market's just going to obviously show itself within here. And I've said this all the time on this. I'm saying it again. I believe, your own risk, your own reward. I believe that not only do I feel that this is a conservative statement to state that I think this can retest the 2011 lows, but convincingly break it to major proportions. Meaning come down here and test some of these levels from 1980 when it was at the historic level. Yeah, I think it's going to do that as well. I'm even going more aggressive than that. I think it's going to break that and break into single digits. And maybe even in the low ends of the single digits, like par or 2 or 3. And that would be extreme if it happens. It also means that for me as a trader, getting down to this point means taking a very small amount of my silver and turning it into gold. And then as every move comes lower, just keep on doing it a bit more each time. And then to my target levels, this would be I'd sell a lot more at that 16 one because maybe I'm wrong and it doesn't break the 10. And of course, the whole point of it would be if I did sell some silver for gold here, and then this happens again, and okay, I guess I'll take some of the gold and turn it back into silver. So be it. Anyway, a lot to show. Let's move on to the other markets. The Dow is next. And we'll do multiple time frames from the longest, which will be monthly, and it's been in a complete uptrend since the last depression that we had. And they call it the Great Depression. They might be calling this one the greater one. But with all the markets, you have your moves, you do bang, straight up, sideways, straight up, and just a little bit here in the 87 crash. Major straight up, then the dot-com bust, then the 2008 crisis. Overall, this was a sideways move, and then a breakout in here. Okay, we've had a little bit of a down move here, but when you look at it from this angle, it's just a little bit. So it's either that of a scared failed breakdown, or it's like a horror movie, sort of, not really. But it's either that failed breakdown, which would indicate that it's going to break this resistance later in a few months and it'll make new highs, or it's the start of, or the end of the uptrend, start of either a down or a sideways range. Sideways range would probably be resistance somewhere where it's been, like 27, 25 or whatever. And it's already established one level at 18,003. And then, of course, start of a down move, you start to make a pattern of lower highs, lower lows. 18 already starting to barely decline within this time frame. Looking at this on the weekly chart, we can see the significant break below. So there was a failed break below the 18 average in here. Failed move did create a fast move to break in previous high. And then a tremendously large move that went from that high and significantly broke down below this level. Since then, it has just now been in this correctionary phase for quite some time after a move higher, so now it's just a wait and see kind of deal. Are we going to break this resistance and come back, test new levels? Are we going to resist this? And this could be a start, like I mentioned, on the monthly. This would be a time frame to look at to clarify things. That's why I think multiple time frames are something that's very ideal when looking at charts. But if it shows that, that gives you the indication, I think, that we could be heading for a capitulation cycle as it goes on the daily chart. Again, I want to take a look at all these markets. There we can see March in here, the big down move on the from there. Markets have the move down. Everything did that. Then you have this correctionary phase in here, a little bit of a breakout, but it's gotten back 50% of the move or so, maybe 60%, almost close to 60. So it's got a long ways to go, but you're still in this range to wait and see. 24 here, down, and there's nothing more to it until it breaks it, but that. Next up is crude oil, and we'll look at this on the long term. And I mean, it came back down, and technically it pierced below zero, but at least in this, it did come back to its previous lows from the 80s. Going on the daily chart for this, the incident here, you have to look at it a little bit differently because it technically has only retraced from the there was a second low after it because all the markets bottomed here. So you can say it's retraced like from 21 to like 62, just a small amount of it here being at 30. It's kind of setting up an inverted head and shoulders pattern, left head thing. A big volatility, and then with the economy more reopening a bit, maybe we do come in and test these higher levels. But within these economic turmoil times, and I do see this world getting into really bad economic depression type of state, and kind of with all the stuff going on, that there's going to be price volatility in this. And we've seen with all these black swans, just how events that is, how you can get these types of moves like we have seen within this market. Now let's move on to Bitcoin. We are looking at the weekly chart. We'll do that daily chart next after this. But I'm looking at this with the Fibonacci lines that I've put in a long time ago. It represents this high and this low on an exponential level. So basically 20,000 divided by a little over 3, 6 point something, 6.6, 6.7 area. To the root of this being 23.6, 38.2, 61.8, and 76.4. And boy, have these levels been relatively interestingly decent. Period number 3 of exactly piercing within these levels is this. I just find this very, very interesting how it looks. When you look at this on the daily chart, it's like, oh wow, okay. Piercing below here on April the 30th, but managing to pierce extra here. How it comes back down to this 18 average of lows and where it's seen. This is ultimate showing strength at the 18 average of highs at a spot where if it booms higher because of this Fibonacci 61.8, the big level, the granddaddy of them all, of the 4. It looks to me as if we're ready for a large move. I wouldn't be surprised in the next few days we're seeing 10,000 good, like 10.6, 10.7 at least. I mean, even the 12.856 really, I should be saying. Convincing move on here would be a breakup. But yeah, next few days to come up to like in here. And then probably after that continue to go higher would not surprise me. You can say it's overextended and all that stuff. And to a degree because it's still within the range. But as long as people are still willing to buy at these prices and there's a lack enough of sellers, or there's not enough sellers to stop that from happening, then the markets are only going to do just that and go up. And well, people say later that it's up too much, and they'll keep saying that, and well, they'll be wrong until the last time, where they'll be right. So therefore, to me, it looks like a significant move is going to come into play. And if there's any move to say like a 10 high change or 11 low change, maybe it wouldn't be a surprise if it's just short-term moves that would be resistant, stuff on like the hourly and stuff like that for the time frame. And as far as its play, we've got this from the highs of the year. Well, it's almost retraced 100%. There's your down move, there's your correctionary phase, and then the breakout for this happened at the end of April, and the buyers have consistently been in control ever since. And let's finally take a look at Theta, as well as T-Fuel quickly at the end. Weekly chart, and I've talked a lot about these moves of the past. It looks like we might be having a third one now. This one here, and November 30th, I think. Only a few hours. Well, a few weeks here. And this was going up to like 5,000 Satoshi. Significant down move. And it's had this range in this area, like in here, and here. And this was a long one. This has been a very long range. And now we've had a very interesting break of key resistance statement. Okay. And now we can talk about it's hitting some of these upper areas. And now what kind of resistance do we have? If this goes straight up to here, I think we're going to have weak resistance. No, I don't. I think we'd have strong resistance here. But if we don't, this thing has the potential to be like 6, 7, 8, 10 times higher in like 6, 7, 8, 10 weeks. Because if that's how these things go, when they go, they can go. And like I stated before, I give this the benefit of the doubt, at least to having a fast move to this level. I've been saying for the past few days, and well, it's kind of been showing it so far. We'll see how much it's able to do, how far it's been able to continue this leg higher. On the daily chart, when did this move start? Well, we're in the sideways range in here. We go up in here, come back, previous test this high. How do we correct? Well, do we come back to where we came from? To the end, we came back to these areas here. Came down the 18 average of lows, so we now test this level of resistance. There's weak resistance. It didn't resist. And instead, it comes back and it tests this high, corrects this area. Again, you're at the area of weak resistance coming in here. You can see no resistance. Huge move. This move comes back to the 18 highs, this area as well. And it didn't take long for the buyers to regain control. And then this little bit of strength in here, this little sign. And Today's session, very big gain as it was up that of 11.8%. It got to a high of about 24.10, closing at 22.36 on the Satoshi front. Looking at this on the single hour term time frame, the move started at like 12 p.m. and just a nice straight up move. 15-minute chart. So what do we see on something like this? You have a big move. Is it going to continue? Are we toppy? Intermediate time? I don't know, but this will help us out a little bit. We've established 2 levels of key support. The first one's already been violated. The first one being here. Support on the last leg, support on the way up for the last move, that is. Comes down here, we can see it had a little bounce up to this point, but it failed this level here. Now it's at an area, do we see resistance? We could be setting up sideways ranges in here, if not. And if it does manage to get above this 18 average of highs at any time in the near term, and we do find support and it holds the 18 lows, then I'm going to be thinking the odds of, if we're like say in the next few hours we get to 23.57 and it breaks above, I'm liking the odds it breaks 25 and has a good leg higher. But if this area, if we do resist this point, start to come back here, you start to see weakness below. Well, there's a good chance with a move like this that we're going to have further retracement. And then you look at where did we come from last, how much are we retracing, and you got the bottom end of where we came from here and the upper end, maybe the more realistic end for where we would go. Well, this comes in at around 20.86. So I would think if we see weakness among here, the next leg lower would be somewhere around there. And finally, T-Fuel, which they gave you the coins as in Theta, but a little over a year ago, at a 5-to-1 ratio. So they gave you 5 T-Fuel for every Theta that you had. And these T-Fuel, I don't know what else you can use them for. For me, I need them, not really any at all, but some, to actually send coins out of my wallet. I need 0.501 Theta Fuel to make a transaction to send, if you will, which is like nothing. And it's getting to the point lately with Theta, because I'm trading this against other coins. I've been making a lot of withdrawals off that site. And I mean, as far as where I want Theta to go in the short term, I really don't know what I want. And meaning I don't care in the sense of, if it goes down, okay, I'll get my buybacks. If it goes up, which I know it can, I'll just keep on trading as I am planning to do. So within this market in here, 31 or 29 Satoshi got up to 31. The daily chart is an attempt to get this thing back up and going, because this thing's just been going down. And I don't know how good this thing is going to be, if it's just going to continue making lower highs and lower lows. But you never know what kind of interesting runs it might have where it just goes up, and who knows how it will correct after that. This is this attempt here. It failed. This one failed. This one failed. So we'll see what happens on this one. We look at this on the weekly. Is that the chart I looked at? I thought I seen something different that looked better. What did I see then? Oh, I mean, this looks good. I thought what I see, I don't see any of. So anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that. I thought it seemed like it was like the 3rd attempt to break out of this thing. That's what I thought I seen. Monthly doesn't have it. Weekly doesn't have it. Not really here, but it is an attempt to get above this. And maybe this is what I looked at. No, this being the failed one. Situations like this, 18 you've had the downtrend for so long. I think the 18 average of lows is where we need to go on this. Must hold is the 18 lows. At least in this price range. If this goes up to like say 50 or 60, well then no. But if it stays within like 35, 36, then that would be the must hold area. Anyway, thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.